You can't pull blood from a stone. No matter how hard you try, no blood. I think that's a fair analogy for considering agricultural systems that bring food ingredients into the kitchen. The bottom line is healthy food comes from healthy soil. Barren soil, you can fill in the blanks. Now, certain farming systems are better than others at cultivating, maintaining, enhancing, or strengthening soil fertility. And the champion of them all is biodynamic agriculture. And in this video, I'm doing a two-part installment into the fascinating history and application of a farming system that goes way beyond composting. Welcome. If you're new to this channel, everybody's new to this channel. It's a new channel. I'm Magdiale Walmark. I'm a two-time James Beard nominated chef for plant-based cooking, a certified biodynamic horticulturalist, and a Food Network competition cooking show champion in Clash of the Vegetarians. And in this channel, I have conversations and discuss ideas that go beyond what we normally associate with health and nutrition. And these ideas are in esoteric philosophy, alternative medicine, and modern science. And I think these ideas can be applied to our practices in the kitchen. Now, if you're agriculturally illiterate, I got you. I grew up in the inner city, and the closest I ever got to a local farm was the bed of an old Ford F-150 that was cruising down the alley at dusk, announcing through a bullhorn that they were selling Jersey peaches for 3 pounds for $1. I think the price-weight ratio has been reversed today. And I'll tell you what, I was as excited about those Jersey peaches as I was about that fudge banana bomb pop from the ice cream truck. And in the beginning of my cooking career, I was pretty much oblivious to the source of the ingredients coming into the kitchen. Even though I was working in upscale restaurants, I think I was more aligned with the quality of my drugs than I was the nutritional content of the vegetables. Fortunately, I had my foot in two areas. I was a competitive athlete and I was a cook. So I was interested in developing a sensitivity to my ingredients. Now, fast forward 25 years, I'm a plant-based chef, and I've just built an urban garden. And through a series of fortunate events, I was confronted with the compelling principles of biodynamic agriculture. Now, not being one to skim the surface of fascinating subjects, I enrolled in the biodynamic certification training at the PFEIFFER Center in Spring Valley, New York. And for a year, I traveled back and forth between Columbus, Ohio, and Spring Valley, New York, and literally went on a journey that transformed my perspective on food and farming. And my perspective was changed through 3 channels. Number 1 is I ate the food that was produced at the PFEIFFER Center farm. And it was the most energizing and invigorating meals I've ever had in my life. Number 2, I learned through hands-on practice the technical skills necessary to make the biodynamic preparations and all the other work on the farm. And number 3, I was introduced to the philosophical basis for biodynamics through required coursework in studying anthroposophy. The person who formulated both anthroposophy and biodynamics is a man named Rudolf Steiner. In the late 19th and early 20th century, he was probably one of the most influential occultists at that time that you've never heard about probably. And I highly suggest that you look into Rudolf Steiner. He's credited with extraordinary achievements in architecture, art, medicine, and education, in addition to his contributions in agriculture. And he's probably one of the most prolific authors of all time. He traveled all over Europe, giving thousands and thousands of lectures, which were transcribed and compiled into groups of similar theme. So he's authored hundreds and hundreds of books, in addition to the books he actually wrote himself. At this point, I think it's important to have some historical context to understand the environment out of which biodynamics originated. So imagine, if you will, it's the late 19th century and the Industrial Revolution is sweeping across the globe like a giant tidal wave. While simultaneously, there is an emerging philosophical movement that was also taking Europe by storm, and this was called the Theosophical movement, and its leader was a dynamic and enigmatic character, Madame Blavatsky. And Rudolf Steiner was simultaneously also coming up as a renowned occultist, and he became part of the Theosophical Society. And Steiner, as part of the Theosophical Society, was traveling all over Europe and giving these lectures on these once hidden occult doctrines that, according to the Theosophists at the time, were guiding the evolution of the cosmos and humanity. And over time, he decided that he wanted to branch off and start his own group that he called the Anthroposophical Society. So the Theosophical Society was more based on these ideas about God, theo meaning God, and the Anthroposophical Society was a movement that was based more on the study of the human being, anthro meaning human being. And these movements were really attracting prominent figures in science and politics and other fields. And then along comes the devastation of World War I, which also affected these spiritual movements. And after World War I, Steiner and the Anthroposophical movement decided that they wanted to apply their spiritual wisdom to practical human affairs. And so around that time, a group of scientists and veterinarians and doctors and farmers approached Steiner because they have become keenly aware of the deterioration of animal and soil health due to the application of organic chemistry, which is motivated by this kind of like general enthusiasm for all science-based things during the Industrial Revolution. And they said to him, hey, we've got a problem here. Can you help us? And Steiner went to work and developed these indications that he talked about in these lectures that have been compiled into a book called Agriculture Course, The Birth of the Biodynamic Movement. And these are really the early indications that Steiner came up with that he then passed on to his circle, his anthroposophical circle that was working on these issues. And he said, start with these indications and experiment and, let this evolve. So there's a lot of information here about what biodynamics is, but it's not everything that biodynamics is.